So how much do DoorDash drivers actually make? We have data from our network of over 150,000 drivers to tell you the answer. What's up, guys? Brandon Sellers here from the Gridwise team. We hear all the time, one of the number one things that people ask us is just, guys, how much do DoorDash drivers actually make, especially in 2020 when you have COVID kind of pushing everyone away from rideshare, pulling everyone toward delivery? All right, how much can I actually make on this platform? What does that actually look like? We got answers for you right here. But before we get into the answers, if you want more information like this, if you love these data insights, you know, if you like Gridwise, if you even, I don't know, you just happen to come across this channel, please go ahead and hit subscribe. The support is amazing. So let's just get right into it. So, of course, you know, DoorDash drivers, they get paid. You know, when you actually look on DoorDash's website, you can see payments for Dashers are basically a combination of base, promotion, and tips. It's actually, DoorDash is a bit of a black box. They don't really, certainly before you sign up, they don't really let drivers know, hey, what's like the per mile rate here and things along like per delivery. Like DoorDash is very much kind of a black box here in terms of how much drivers can actually make on the platform. So if you're kind of a new Dasher, it can be a little bit difficult to understand, okay, like what can I actually expect? So what we're going to do is we're going to tell you how much drivers make in really certainly across the nation, and then in a couple specific markets. We actually have a blog post that we are linking down below that will explain exactly how much DoorDash drivers are making in across 41 different markets, I believe. From a median standpoint, not an average, tends to be a little bit more accurate using the median, or at least not have as many outliers, right? So that's what we're gonna do here. In terms of like the metrics that drivers should really be care about, there's really three that I think that we're gonna tell you how much drivers are making per, right? And that's gonna be per hour, per mile, and per trip. So per mile, obviously this is, you know, your time for your money. How much is your time really valued at? You're of course gonna want to keep track of this. This is something that every driver pretty much understands. Hey, I need to be maximize my earnings per hour. But then there's also this per mile stat, which is super important, a little bit more important for rideshare drivers than delivery drivers, but very, very important to kind of keep track, because what that's going to tell you is once you can kind of figure out, okay, how much am I making how much are my expenses per mile, which you can, I mean, a lot of drivers just use, you know, flat 30 cents. A lot of drivers will, to calculate that, they might use like 58 or whatever, like the tax rate is, and then you can also figure that out like specifically for yourself. But it's important to understand above that, or what's my actual profit per mile, you know, because that is, especially for rideshare drivers, you have to factor in depreciation and things like that. A lot more drivers will actually buy cars for rideshare specifically. Delivery drivers, you don't really need to do that. You don't have as stringent of requirements for that. So a lot of drivers, from the delivery standpoint, you know, you can get a beater that's cost $1,000 or ride your bike or something like that. There's essentially no depreciation there, so you don't really need to calculate that as much. But it is really, really good to understand what that per mile rate is. You really should, as a baseline, certainly for delivery drivers, you should be looking at like $1.25 per mile there, and then also per trip. And this just kind of helps you understand, like, this is more important per service, right? So you really want to understand how much am I making per trip on DoorDash versus Postmates versus Uber Eats, etc. So that's certainly like an important metric, but it really kind of helps you understand what's the quality of the trips that I'm getting, and then what's the quality of the trips I'm getting like per service, right? So that being said, what are the numbers? What do the numbers look like? Again, driver network of 150,000 drivers kind of helped us pull together this data. This is pretty much direct from drivers, so this is incredibly accurate data. They literally, right after a driver shift, they pull that data right into Gridwise, so we can track those earnings. Let's start in looking at from a national standpoint. DoorDash drivers this year, and then we're calculating this during a really turbulent time, an interesting time. which is 2020 in COVID, and specifically April through August. April through August, drivers nationally made a median earnings per hour of $15.57, median earnings per mile of $1.04, and median earnings per trip of $7.97. Now, this is going to change significantly depending on what market you are in. So if we go and we look at in Orlando, which I believe has the lowest earnings per hour of any market, they're at 1047. But actually, really interesting, if you look at Portland, Oregon, up to 1718 per hour. And then you have your places like LA, San Diego's actually 1663 per hour. Let's see here. I'm looking at this sheet at a blog post that we have put together that, again, is linked below. So you can look at find your specific market or a market that's pretty similar to yours. We have 41 there to see exactly the median earnings per hour, per mile, and per trip of DoorDash drivers in your market. LA, 1636, Dallas, 1349. Let's look at Chicago, 1340, Baltimore, 1487. So you can see earnings will fluctuate, but essentially across the country, drivers are hovering around that 1557 mark. Now, when you look at like from a per mile standpoint, you actually have as low as, looks like 85 cents in your Oklahoma cities, in your Milwaukee's, less expensive cities like those. You do have a little bit of a lower earnings per mile, but that's certainly, and again, more expensive cities, your LA's $1.18, your San Diego's $1.16, Portland, $1.18. I'm kind of surprised Portland's so high. Sacramento, $1.15. So obviously, if you're in a more expensive city, you know what the cost of living is in your city. That's going to be higher, right? Just kind of common sense there. But that's what drivers are making right now, guys. That's where that's how much drivers are making, right? And then it's important as a driver, you want to keep track of your earnings per mile. You want to keep track of your earnings per hour. You want to keep track of your earnings per trip and always kind of be certainly benchmarking off of these kind of national or market specific, city specific benchmarks, but then also just improving yourself. So, if I'm a driver sitting in Salt Lake City, they're making $14.93 an hour. If I see I'm at $13 an hour, I know, hey, there's some things I can improve there. I need to kind of work on my strategy a bit, maybe change the times, maybe change the locations where I'm choosing to work. But the same thing if I'm getting up to $15 an hour in Salt Lake where the average is $14.93. Okay, I'm above average, but that means my new benchmark is my personal average of $15 an hour. And then how do I change my strategy, improve things, do more to continue to increase that to $16, $17, $18 an hour. I have seen some drivers, part-time drivers, delivery part-time, you can do a lot better than full-time just because the hours kind of work out differently. But we're seeing some DoorDash drivers doing part-time about 25 hours a week, making $30+ an hour. That happens 100% on our platform, guys. So it's all about strategy. It's about mindset. It's about making sure that you're on your grind there. But that's what drivers are earning, guys. Again, 150,000 drivers tell us this data. And then we kind of just parse it, chop it up a little bit, and let you know what's going on so you can maximize your earnings. And if you did enjoy this video, we're gonna have some videos on this same topic from Postmates, from Grubhub, Uber, Lyft, all these different platforms. So if you like this video, if you like the channel, please subscribe so we can keep giving you awesome content. All right, thank you guys.